Hi, this is Claude Larson coming to you from my studio, and I just wanted to share my practice for swatching today. I didn't really used to swatch to test out color palettes. I just kind of went for it, and sometimes I had some happy accidents, but sometimes I also wasted paint. So this is a sketchbook I've dedicated entirely to my swatching. And a while back, I used to try to find something for inspiration and then choose paints and see if I could mix the colors that were in that inspiration. Now, this was a piece of textile that somebody had given me, but I didn't care for the floral print so much, but I really liked the color palette, the burgundies against the yellows and peaches. I just thought it was really a nice color palette. So I learned a lot about mixing color, which was really useful. I never actually made work with this particular color palette, but it's nice to keep it in a book so that I have it as a reference if I ever want to try it. Then I moved to, I bought cardstock from a box store, and I would color swatch on that so that if I had anything disastrous, I didn't have to leave it in my sketchbook. I wasn't tearing pages out of my sketchbook. It was just kind of like a low impact way of getting the paint down. And, you know, I do monochromatic, so this is indigo, and, you know, adding white, adding shades of gray, adding pure black, and then adding quin crimson just to see what that would do. So a couple colors in here. And then the quin crimson with Indian yellow hue. I do like these corally colors. I never used these palettes. I was just sort of practicing the act of swatching, but it's so valuable to me now. Like, I wouldn't start a series without doing this to make sure that I'm in love with the color palette so that I won't tire of it while I'm working on the art. And again, just this is one color with shades of gray and white. One color. You know, and it does, sometimes it does strange things, so it's good to know that before you start painting on your actual pieces with it. And you can see this is just swipes with a paintbrush. So I was doing this on cardstock and then using double-sided tape or a glue stick to just glue it in a sketchbook. Great reference material. Now I have transitioned, and this is how I swatch my paint. So I start with 9x12 sheet of paper. This is my collage weight paper. So all the hand painted papers that I make that I will use in my collage or on my paintings as collage material. It's this 80-pound sulfite free, ready to go paper. I start with a sheet of that, and then I cut it up. And you know, you cut it in half, and you cut that in half, you cut that in half, you cut that in half, until you have these little squares. Like, it's not an exacting science, they're all relatively the same size. And I have these ready to go. And then on a palette, I will take my little pieces of paper and I'll just start painting them. So this particular palette that I'm going to show you in a second here, I used green gold, burnt sienna, and Payne's gray. Again, just sort of experimenting, seeing what was going to happen. And you start to see, like, oh, you know, the green gold with the burnt sienna, that makes a nice color shift. Burnt sienna adding white. Oh, it's an, you know, it's an interesting green when you add the Payne's gray to the green gold. And so I made probably, you know, 80 different squares. And of course, mixing the three colors together, adding a lot of white, will give you a gray that coordinates really well with whatever colors you're using. So now I have all these little squares right? And you'll see I've cut a corner out of each one. So they're all missing a little corner of the piece of paper. And from that, I glued them down. To make this color palette. And of course, I'm taking notes. I write down what colors I'm using, knowing that I've added black and white because that's the whole point of swatching, right? Seeing what color shifts you can get. And then I have all this stuff left over. Oh, by the way, and I use the same collage weight paper. Once I'm done swatching, I have a bunch of paint left on my palette, so I just paint papers. And a lot of times it's kind of muddy colors, which is nice because then, it can really highlight some of your brighter shades. Like here's a blue with a nice burnt sienna next to it, right? And it's going to coordinate because it's the same colors. And you're always going to want some muted colors in the mix because that helps your brighter colors stand out. So I've got painted paper, I've got painted swatches, I've glued them down. I just use like an Oohoo glue stick. You can use anything. I don't think it really matters, but I just know that one really holds, so they're really stuck in there. And then once I have this, I can start my paint series. I haven't started a paint series with this yet, to be honest, because I am trying to decide if I love it enough to invest the time. If I don't love it enough, one, I haven't used a lot of paint or time, and I can shift it. Or if I say, oh, maybe I want to swap out one color and see what happens if I keep two and change one. Again, gives you a lot of information to work with. But because I have gone to the trouble of making all these swatches, painting all this paper, making sheets of collage paper, etc., I don't want to throw these away, right? I've got my swatch book, and now I've got all of this. And what I've done, what I actually did with my previous palette, was I saved all of my swatches, and this is Bristol board that I cut to ATC size. So you can look that up, artist trading cards. I don't know if it's like 2.5 by 3.5 or 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. There's a standard size for ATC cards. And then I just cut it up, and here I have all these hand-painted papers. Some of them are like pretty luscious, to be honest. Like I just love this color right here. And I just made a bunch of little collages. Are these done? No. I will add things to them. In fact, here's some from that series that I've added things to. I consider these done for, the purpose of it, right? I've added like a squiggly line because I like squiggly lines, right? There's another one. And I mixed these colors into using this, and then of course black and white. I can add a pattern. I do like pattern. Just stamped a circle on there. Somehow that just like pulled it together. And this gives me like little tiny problems to solve without investing a lot of time or materials. And it keeps me interested. And once I've sort of fallen in love with the color palette, I want to push it and see what it can do, right? So now I've got ATCs. I can use, I could punch a hole, use it as a gift tag. I could add a sticker and use it as my business card. They do sell note cards. I believe Strathmore sells note cards you can buy, and like you insert this as you would a photo. You can use it as a note card. So all of the swatching, besides it giving me a lot of information about a color palette, it can also give you these fun little projects to take on at low impact to your art budget. So that is my newest swatching practice. It may evolve from here, who knows? But I find that this has become so useful to me. I would not start a series without it. Again, I used to just go, oh, I like this color, and this color. Let me put them all together and see what happens. I didn't have as much information about how to make a more sophisticated color palette. And this has gotten me to a point now where I know this first color palette, too florally for me. I'm not really a floral, I'm just not into painting florals, but this to me just felt very floral. So a lot of information, not a lot of paint. Now I can use that and move on. Then it's, you know, I love, I just love this color and this range that I could do with Indian Yellow Hue. I never really worked with it extensively before, but now that I can see what it can do, this is definitely on my radar as something I might be using in a series. So I highly recommend swatching. Again, this is how I do it. This is the St. Augustine series. It's on my website. This is the new series that I just put on there. I started with 3 colors, and then I added a couple more just to sort of deepen the shades that I could get. And I ended up using a mixture of 5 colors plus black and white to make the I think I titled the series Majestic Mountain. And again, that's on my website. But this is how it starts, and from here it can go anywhere. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in my next video. Have a great day.